Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to America's holy city, Charleston, South Carolina. In the commissioning of USS Frank E. Petersen Jr., DDG 121, I am Commander Chad Stewart, the ship's executive officer. It is my privilege to be your master of ceremonies today. We welcome those with us in person and our family and friends as they participate in today's event via the World Wide Web. We are here today to honor and celebrate a true trailblazer, the late Lieutenant General Frank E. Petersen Jr. Lieutenant General Petersen Jr. was the United States Marine Corps' first African-American aviator and general officer. Just as General Petersen Jr. embodied the spirit of service and unwavering devotion to his country, this crew will proudly continue his legacy. When called upon, we too will boldly sail into the tiger's jaw. We are honored to have another legendary Marine with us today, Medal of Honor recipient and United States Marine, Major General James E. Livingston. Major General Livingston, please stand and be recognized. Would all veterans please stand and be recognized? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service. Our ceremony today is a time-honored tradition that began with the commissioning of our first warship, a captured British schooner, the Margaretta, in 1775. Since then, thousands of ships have undergone the transformation from silent hulls to fully alive warships. Our commissioning crew, hereafter known as plank owners, are in formation among you and ready to bring our ship alive. In just a few moments, the United States Navy Fleet Forces Band will render honors to the Honorable Nancy Mace. Will the guests please rise and remain standing for the arrival of our official party, honors, the presentation of colors, and the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, our platform guests. Lieutenant Commander Justin Bernard, Chaplain Corps, United States Navy. Captain Claudine Calori, United States Navy, Deputy Commander, Destroyer Squadron 3-1. Captain Seth Miller, United States Navy, DDG 51 Class Shipbuilding Program Manager. Captain Nathan Schneider, United States Navy, Supervisor of Shipbuilding, Gulf Coast. Our ship's Matron of Honor, Miss Claire Curvo. Miss Monique Petersen, Miss Lindsay Petersen Pulliam, Miss Dana Petersen Moore, and Miss Gail Petersen, daughters of the late Lieutenant General Petersen Jr. Mr. Frank E. Petersen III, son of the late Lieutenant General Petersen Jr. Mr. George Nungesser, Vice President of Program Management, Ingalls Shipbuilding. Ms. Jill Boward, Executive Director, Combatants, Program Executive Office, Ships. Brigadier General Emery J. Hagan, South Carolina Military Department, Co-Chairman, USS Frank E. Petersen Jr. Commissioning Committee. The Honorable Carlos Campbell, our Principal Speaker. The Honorable John Tecklenburg, Mayor, City of Charleston, South Carolina. Admiral Michael Gilday, United States Navy, the 32nd Chief of Naval Operations. General David H. Berger, United States Marine Corps, the 38th Commandant of the Marine Corps. The Honorable Carlos Del Toro, the 78th Secretary of the Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, our ship's sponsor, Ms. Darcy Neller, escorted today by Command Master Chief Shane Wojner, USS Frank Petersen Jr., Command Master Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Nancy Mace, United States Representative, State of South Carolina, 1st District, escorted today by Commander Daniel Hancock, United States Navy, USS Frank Petersen Jr., prospective commanding officer. Ladies and gentlemen, honors to the Honorable Nancy Mace. Platform and salute. Platform, ready, 2. Advance the colors. Retire the colors. Platform, ready, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Bernard will now deliver the invocation.
Good morning. Would you pray with me now? Most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we come before you on this beautiful day which you have made to commission and bring to life the good ship USS Frank Petersen Jr. As friends, family, dignitaries, and shipmates have come from around the globe to celebrate this tremendous milestone in the life of the ship, we come to you in prayer, Lord, to ask that you would be present with us today in this holy city, and that you would receive all honor and glory from this time-honored ceremony that we are about to witness. Father, the magnificent warship that stands proudly before us today is a testimony to the hard work and ingenuity of countless men and women who have dedicated their lives to creating and sustaining our nation's sea power and strength. We praise you, Lord, for their tireless efforts to provide the very best, the most technologically advanced platform for our sailors as they sail her to secure freedom and democracy around the world for decades to come. We thank you, Lord, today for our ship's namesake, Lieutenant General Petersen, who led a life that saw adversity as opportunity and charged headlong after it to not only break barriers and set higher standards, but to be the very best at every level of leadership and command he was blessed to hold. We praise you, Father, for his steadfast pursuit of excellence and unwavering dedication to the Marines on his right and to the Marines on his left, to his beloved Corps and to his nation. And I pray boldly now, Lord, for the plank owner crew of this great ship, who will in just a few moments charge headlong themselves to bring her to life and become her lifeblood and soul. That you would give them strength and courage for the journey ahead. That you would grant wisdom and discernment to Commander Hancock and every sailor, chief, and officer in his charge. That they might follow in the General's contrails and strive day in and day out for nothing less than their very best, because his legacy is now their opportunity. Would you come now, Lord, and be present with us in this place? Would you bless our gathering? Would you bless the stories, the memories, the accomplishments that will be shared? And most of all, would you bless the story of the USS Frank Petersen Jr. that is yet to be told? For I pray all of these things in your strong and holy name, and all of God's people said with me, amen and amen. God bless you.
Thank you, Chaplain Bernard. We would like to thank the United States Navy Fleet Forces Band and the Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort Color Guard for their support this morning. Additionally, we wish to thank and acknowledge the support of Mr. Jim Newsom, President and CEO of the South Carolina Ports Authority. Will the guests please be seated? Black Knights, parade, rest. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable John Tecklenburg.
Well, protocol has been established, so I welcome all to this beautiful and historic city of Charleston, South Carolina. Welcome. Now, Rob Fowler and I took care of the weather for you, so I think our job is already mostly done. But I wanted to share with you, here we are in a historic setting, a beautiful setting right behind us, Charleston Harbor, which was the site of the first major naval battle and victory of our colonies when we claimed independence from Great Britain. In fact, it was on June 28th in 1776, just in the mouth of the harbor here, that a brave band of patriots defeated the greatest naval force in the world at the time, the British Navy. By the way, that's also the place where the Cooper River and the Ashley River meet to form the Atlantic Ocean, right here in Charleston. A place of great history. We think that event, just a week before July 4th, helped to encourage our founding fathers to sign that declaration just a week later. Welcome again to this historic city. A special welcome to the Petersen family. It's such a blessing to have you here. And thank you, Admiral, and all who had anything to do, Commander Hancock, with choosing Charleston as the site for this commissioning. Now, I've been mayor for 17 years, and this is my third commissioning already. We had the USS Charleston and Ralph Johnson, and now Frank Petersen. I tell you, Charleston is a place we like to have a great party, so we welcome you anytime. It's an honor for this city to host you, because we thank you, not only welcome you, but thank you to those men and women in service, to your families that support you, to the veterans who have already served. And I just want to share one reflection in this time, in this world, as we look around what is going on in Ukraine, and we see the evil that is being perpetrated there. If you're not proud to be an American at this time, boy, I'm counting my lucky stars. I am blessed to be the mayor of this great city and living in this great country, but honestly, it's not possible. It is not possible without the men and women in service who protect, who guard, who serve our country. So it is an extreme honor for us to host you. God bless you, and welcome to the city of Charleston. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Tecklenburg. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. George Nungesser.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am George Nungesser, Vice President of Programs and Management, and it is my honor today to be with you as a proud second-generation shipbuilder. Ingalls Shipbuilding has a very strong and patriotic legacy of building 4 generations of surface combatants. The DDG 963 Spruance class, the DDG 993 Kidd class, the CG-47 Ticonderoga class, and we are here today to commission our 33rd DDG-51 Arleigh Burke destroyer, Frank E. Petersen Jr. Once deployed, DDG-21 will be the most lethal surface combatant on the high seas and with the most sophisticated combat system in the destroyer fleet. More than 11,000 shipbuilders, along with our industry and Navy partners, come to work each and every day with a sense of passion, purpose, and personal pride to provide the highest quality mission-capable ship we can build and deliver to the fleet. Today is a celebration of team effort. This ship is a shining example of what can be accomplished when the whole team works together as one common goal. We have some shipbuilders out in the audience today that I would like to recognize. Mr. Donnie Dorsey was the ship program manager for the DDG-121. Donnie led the deck plate team to delivery, and now he's the Vice President of Operations at Ingalls. Ms. Cynthia Griffin, Superintendent of the Paint Department. The total paint coverage requirement for the DDG-21 was approximately 3 million square feet. Mr. Hector Malalando, Electrical General Foreman. Hector is part of an electrical team that supports putting 360 miles of cable on the DDG-121. Ms. Jennifer Johnson, Joiner Insulator Foreman. DDG-121 has enough insulation in her to cover the top of the New Orleans Superdome. Thank you for what you do each and every day. DDG-121 is named after a man who dedicated his life to serving our nation and made history in the process. It's well known that Lieutenant General Frank E. Petersen Jr.'s contributions to our nation were heroic and paved a way that had not yet been made. His service as the first African-American Marine Corps aviator and the first African-American Marine Corps general are an inspiration to many. As a Marine Corps aviator, he flew combat missions in Korea and Vietnam, earning the Distinguished Flying Cross and Purple Heart. After 38 years of service to our nation, he retired in 1988 with the rank of Lieutenant General as a senior ranking aviator in the United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant General Petersen was known to use the phrase, "into the tiger's jaw," when speaking about social injustices and courage in combat. This phrase has become the ship's motto. We know the crew who will sail upon her will take it to heart. As they adopt this theme, we all can rest assured that our nation's freedom and freedoms are protected, and the rights of our citizens are secured. Captain Hancock, on behalf of the Ingalls shipbuilders, we are honored to provide you and your crew with such a strong ship to use for our intended purpose with the future and security of our nation in mind. We wish you and your crew fair winds and following seas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nungesser. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Michael Gildo.
Good morning, Charleston. Good morning, Mrs. Neller, Mrs. Corvo, all 5 of General and Dr. Petersen's children, Major General Livingston, Secretary Campbell, Secretary Del Toro, General Berger, General Neller, Admiral Howard, distinguished guests, partners in industry, family, friends, and shipmates. Today, we take great pleasure, immense pride in commissioning the fighting ship you see behind me, 513 feet of fighting American steel and all that those 3 words embody. And in this coming year, 330 proud American sailors will put this destroyer to sea and carry the name of Frankie Petersen to the far-flung corners of the globe. General Frankie Petersen was no ordinary man. He was a United States Marine, and he was a trailblazer, the Corps' first African-American aviator and general officer. Throughout his nearly 4 decades of service, he was a devoted husband to his beloved and late wife, Dr. Alicia Petersen, and a loving father to 5 incredible children, Gail, Dana, Lindsay, Monique, and Frank E. Petersen III. During his career, General Petersen made waves across the fleet and pioneered a course for future devil dogs and sailors alike. He was committed to our nation, and that was beyond approach. And his courage as a fighter pilot set a sky-high standard for the ship that bears his name. It is fitting that a name synonymous with service and sacrifice is engraved in the steel of this warship, because our early Arleigh Burke-class destroyers embody the fighting spirit and the cool under pressure style of General Petersen. In times past, it has often been the strength of our fleet, our sailors and our Marines that have tipped the scales of conflict against our adversaries. Our role in the world has never been an easy one. It has not only required strength, but sacrifice. That is the price that we should pay for our commitment to our ideals and a vision of a safe and secure world for all Americans. Throughout its history, the American destroyer embodied our Navy's strength and willingness to serve. Multi-mission by design, a Swiss Army knife, if you will. Destroyers charged into contested environments to take on the enemy, protect convoys and capital ships so that we can control the seas and project American power around the world. A destroyer at flank speed serves as a not-so-gentle reminder to every nation that we will bear any burden, that we will support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. Just over 30 years ago, the Arleigh Burke class of guided missile destroyer became the gold standard for the modern surface combatant. And now, today, as the 71st Arleigh Burke class destroyer and 43rd Flight 2 Alpha enters our fleet, we continue that proud heritage. The USS Frank Petersen Jr. represents a continued dedication of our sailors and civilians, the skill and the innovation of our shipyards and our industry partners, and the commitment of the American people to keep the seas free and open for all. For the crew of the Frank Petersen Jr., I wish you the very best as you strive to serve with the same honor, the same courage, and the same commitment of your ship's namesake. May God bless you, your families, and your many voyages to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Gilday. Ladies and gentlemen, General David H. Berger.
Well, good morning. distinguished guests, the sponsors, Marines, sailors, family members, especially the Petersen family. I think all of us wish actually that Dr. Alicia Petersen and Dr. Ann Nickerson were here. That's General Petersen's wife and sister, but I'm pretty sure that they're looking down on us with a great big smile today. They're here with us. You've already heard that General Petersen was a man of many firsts. As a Marine, of course, when you get to command a tactical air squadron, an air group, an air wing, that's incredible. He was the first Marine African American to do that. But among Marines, I would tell you that he is known for two things. First, an incredible motivation to succeed. And second, a drive to lead. When he first enlisted in the Navy, he was told he ought to be a pretty good steward. But he had other ideas. He was determined to follow in the footsteps of the first black Navy pilot, Jesse Brown. But to Frank, his real goal was to become a United States Marine. He didn't just climb mountains. He moved them. He did fly 64 combat missions in Korea, earned a Distinguished Flying Cross as a second lieutenant. Years later, he earned the chance to command a fighter squadron. His squadron, as you heard, VMFA 314, the Black Knights. That irony was definitely not lost on Frank Petersen or anyone else. And while we still have a lot of work to do in the Marine Corps and in the military, I would tell you that we're a lot better organization because of what General Petersen taught us and because of what he showed us. Not only did he chart a course for those who would follow in his footsteps, he set an example for all who earned the title United States Marine. There's a saying that ships take on the characteristics of their namesakes. If that's true, and God help any adversary that ever confronts the USS Frank E. Petersen Jr. She will be, just like her namesake, unstoppable. So to the crew of DDG 121, may the legacy of General Petersen inspire you to persevere any hardship, overcome any obstacle, and approach every mission with determination and tenacity. Fair winds and following seas. Thank you, and Semper Fidelis.
Thank you, General Berger. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Gail Petersen.
Good morning, everyone. So glad you are here. I want to thank you all for coming, and my comments will be brief. First of all, the Petersen family is extremely honored to have with us today the Secretary of the Navy, the Honorable Carlos Del Toro, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, General David Berger, and the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Michael Gilday. We are so pleased to have all three together here today for this ceremony. My father would be humbled by their presence. We would not, however, be having the ceremony today if it were not for a gentleman named Robert Adams. When my dad was shot down in Vietnam, he was rescued by Robert Adams, who is also here today. Please stand. My family is enormously appreciative that you were able to join us. My father had one grandchild, Frankie Petersen IV. Although Frankie Petersen could not be here with us today, his 3 children, my father's legacy, his great-grandchildren are here. I am pleased to introduce to you all Miss Janiah Petersen, 10 years old. Where are you, Janiah? Wave to the people. Frankie Petersen V, our 5th series. He's 9 years old. And Miss Parker Petersen, who is 7 years old. They are happy to be here today to celebrate with us their beloved Granddaddy General. They are here with their mother, Janelle. A wise man once said, "This much I know, when the storm breaks, each man and woman act in accordance with their own nature. Some run, some cry, and some are struck dumb with terror, and some spread their wings like eagles and soar on the winds." Our father, Frankie Petersen, was an eagle. Today, I'm pretty sure you will hear a little bit about why I say this. In the meantime, on behalf of my father and the entire Petersen family, we would like to thank each and every person who worked on this ship from stem to stern. This family is so humbled by the Navy naming the ship after our dad. We could not possibly be more proud. This is a tremendously remarkable moment. Thank you to all who made this day happen. When I told my British cousin about this day, he said, "I am pretty sure your father exceeded his own expectations," and I agree. In closing, I leave Commander Hancock and the crew of the Frankie Petersen with this blessing. May you always have fair winds and following seas, and remember this: life's roughest storms prove the strength of our anchors. And as my dad used to say, onward and upward. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the ceremony.
Thank you, Ms. Petersen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Nancy Mace.
Thank you. When I was looking at my itinerary today and I saw all of the top brass who was going to be here this morning, my palms started getting sweaty. To those who are here today, Secretary Del Toro, General Berger, Admiral Gilday, Mayor Tecklenburg, the Honorable Carlos Campbell, obviously General Livingston for your heroism. And I was just moved to tears, Gail. I said I wasn't going to cry today. But when you introduced Robert Adams, welcome home. Thank you. To the Petersen family, it's an honor for you all. To the grandchildren who are here today, God bless you for sitting through this in the hot sun. This is such a beautiful missile destroyer. And I can think of no better place than to have this ceremony this morning than on the banks of the 1st Congressional District. It was in the 1800s when Robert Smalls, just behind us in the Charleston Harbor, commandeered a Confederate transportation ship and brought it to Union soldiers in Hilton Head and Beaufort areas and would win the war. He fought for freedom. Robert Smalls fought for democracy. It was in the 1st Congressional District where we had Harriet Tubman in one night in the 1800s free over 650 slaves. It was Joseph P. Rainey who fought for freedom in this country and fought for democracy and became the first Black American to represent in the U.S. House of Representatives. And he represented the 1st Congressional District, where we are today. So I can think of no better place than to recognize a man and a legend and an American war hero in Lieutenant General Petersen. right on the banks of the 1st Congressional District. He was a fighter for freedom. He was a fighter for democracy. And as we've heard before, he served with distinction for 38 years, flying over 350 combat missions, and earned the Purple Heart, earned the Distinguished Flying Cross, earned the Superior Service Cross. The man is a legend. This vessel will be a mainstay of the U.S. Armed Forces. Its namesake, like its namesake did, we will overcome and show the pursuit of excellence as soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines have done for generations. The crew members will continue to carry the torch of liberty and defend this great nation as General Petersen once did. And what General Petersen's life and legend has shown us, that you can face enormous adversity, that you could face an obstacle unlike any other, that you could face a challenge you never thought you would ever have to face, and that you can succeed. He didn't give up. He did not quit. He succeeded in all the obstacles that he faced. And so it's an honor to be with you all today, that not only will General Petersen's life and legend be here forever for your family, for the grandchildren, for future generations, defending freedom and democracy around the world. And we thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Representative Mace. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Carlos Del Toro.
Good morning, Charleston, South Carolina. Is that the best you can do? Can we hear some noise out there? You know, before I begin my comments, I want to extend my special thanks first to the chaplain. This morning when I woke up, there was really dense fog. And as a sailor, I said, this can't be good. So I had my staff call the chaplain. I said, Chaplain, can we put in a special request for sunny weather with just enough cloud cover to not make it too hot? And how about a hand of applause to the chaplain? He came through with the good Lord. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your tremendous hospitality. As a young naval officer, I had the privilege of sailing on a frigate actually up the Cooper River, so I can confirm actually that the Cooper River does feed into the Atlantic Ocean. Representative Mace, thank you, ma'am, for being here, for your tremendous leadership of this 1st Congressional District, and all that you do for our country as well, too. It's an honor to be here with so many distinguished leaders, trailblazers from our Navy and Marine Corps family. And I want to take a brief moment to also ask one individual to stand up. Admiral Michelle Howard, would you please rise? Admiral Howard had the distinction of serving as our Navy's first 4-star naval admiral in the United States Navy, and we thank you for your leadership as well, Admiral. Speaking of family, I am deeply grateful to every member of the Petersen family for being here today and for your lifetime of service to our nation. All of us join you in honoring not only the memory of Lieutenant General Frank Petersen, but also Dr. Alicia Petersen and Dr. Ann Nickerson, as the Commandant mentioned. I'm also grateful for the presidents of the Neller family, including our former Commandant of the Marine Corps and the sponsor and matron of honor of this majestic and powerful warship. As a former destroyer captain myself, I know firsthand the agility, the versatility, and the distributed power that this ship will add to our fleet. But I also know that the real strength of her character stems from the plank owners who will soon bring her to life. And so I want to thank every member of this crew and your families for your service to our nation. I'm going to ask that all the family members of our crew please stand up and be recognized. Thank you. As Secretary of the Navy, I'm determined to do all I can to make sure that you and your families are equipped and ready for the many challenges that lie ahead. That starts with making sure that you have the very finest shipmates and leaders our nation has to offer. We cannot fulfill our mission of national defense without recruiting, retaining, training, and promoting the best that America has to offer. We need a diverse force today, so every child in America can perhaps one day see themselves as a future Chief of Naval Operations or a Commandant of the Marine Corps. This is a national security imperative. Today we celebrate the perseverance and honor of the first African-American aviator and the first African-American Marine general. But there is something deeply poignant in every first. Because for every Marine or sailor who broke a barrier or blazed a trail, there are generations of others before them who had all their dreams deferred. The Marine Corps has been around since 1775, and it took until 1979, my first year of service, for an African-American Marine to become a general. We have come a long way indeed, way since those early days, but there's still much for us to do together. That's why we're taking a hard look at all our policies and identifying where unintended consequences may be holding us back. We're examining our talent management systems, particularly how they impact areas of underrepresentation and recruitment. We're looking at our operations, finding ways to use diversity to improve our innovation, our adaptability, and our organizational learning. And finally, we are building a culture of warfighting excellence founded on leadership, dignity, and respect for each other. We owe it to all who serve today to ensure that they have every opportunity to thrive and grow in the service of this country without bias or barriers of any kind. And at every level, our sailors or Marines must know that their concerns are being heard and taken seriously. So Commander Hancock, listen to your people. Look out for your families. Carry the legacy of your own namesake with pride and honor, and learn from all the distinguished leaders who have served before you, including our principal speaker today. The Honorable Carlos Campbell served for 9 years as a naval aviator and air intelligence officer, during which time he served alongside Lieutenant General Frank Petersen in Hawaii. He would later go on to serve as President Reagan's Assistant Secretary of Commerce and has achieved great distinction as a business executive, as an author, and even a filmmaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce another New Yorker named Carlos, a true patriot and inspiration, Secretary Carlos Campbell.
Good morning, Charleston. This is a great Navy day. This is a great day for the United States Marine Corps. And it's a great day for America. I know there's a voice saying, Cube, keep it together. Secretary Del Toro, Secretary Penn, General Berger, Admiral Gilday, Admiral Howard, General Bolden, General and Mrs. Neller, Mrs. Clara Corrigan, Ambassador Britton, Congresswoman Mace, Mayor Tecklenburg, Captain Hancock, the entire crew of DDG 121, and distinguished guests, good morning. I want to begin by thanking the children of General Petersen. They've all been introduced. I watched them grow up. Dana, Gail, Lindsay, Monique, Frank III. Before he headed west, he told his wife, Alicia, that I was his third brother. I can't tell you how good that makes me. There is an American icon, a mutual friend of ours that was born about 200 miles south of here, Jim Brown. And Jim Brown, the iconic football player and actor, said, participation is not about competition, it's about setting the standard. Jim and Frank were friends. They played chess one time, and Frank beat him twice. And Jim insisted on playing Frank until he won a game. And he looked at me and he said, "Jim don't like to lose." The question is, who was Frank Emanuel Petersen Jr.? Who shaped his character? Now, the Marine Corps historians and other scribes have said he was the first black pilot in the Marine Corps. He was first black to command Squadron 314 and the first black to make flag. But that really does not begin to describe Frank Petersen. On his way to his first duty station after flight school, he went to El Toro, Marine Corps Air Station in California, and he was arrested for impersonating an officer. But he didn't whine, he didn't complain, he persevered. He went on to Korea, and he flew, earned a DFC, Distinguished Flying Cross. And at Jack Kemp's funeral, I had a conversation with the astronaut, Senator John Glenn, and we talked about Frank Petersen, who he knew in Korea. There are quite a few people in Korea flying for the Marine Corps: Ted Williams, Jerry Coleman, if you're baseball fans, Frank Petersen. Paul Tillich, the theologian, said the great anxieties of life are death, guilt, and meaningfulness. Ronald Reagan said, some people wonder all their lives if they've made a difference. The Marines don't have that problem. Nelson Mandela said, we are here to manifest the glory of God that is within us. That was Frank Petersen. The biblical injunctive of Micah says to pursue justice, embrace mercy, and walk humbly. I try to get at least two of those right. The Greek writer Nikos Kazantzakis said, until you have been crucified in this life, you're not ready for your resurrection. This was Frank Petersen. We met in Honolulu at a barbershop downtown. I was an ensign. An ensign's they're supposed to keep their mouths shut and their eyes open. And in walks this ramrod straight Marine captain pilot, and I was frankly intimidated. I got my nerve up and I introduced myself. I said, sir, I'm Ensign Campbell, VP 22, Barbers Point. With the biggest smile, he ran over and grabbed my hand and said, Frank Petersen, VMF 232, Kaneohe. That began an incredible 55-year friendship. We had about 18 black officers in Oahu. Some of the names you may know: Lieutenant Commander Samuel Gravely, Marine Lieutenant Gary Coop. I think Gary's here today, right here. Lieutenant Con Hopper, Carl Bell, the other names you don't know, but another young man was there, Buddy Penn. So after Hawaii, he got orders to Cherry Point, North Carolina. Some detailer assigned him to a transport squadron. We call transport pilots truck drivers. Asking a fighter pilot to serve in a transport squadron is like asking someone to swim and train for the Olympics in a swimming pool. So Frank got his orders changed, ended up in a fighter squadron, flying the Phantom IIs. Shortly afterwards, I got orders to a squadron in Moffett Field. And he called me up one morning and he said, Cube, be out in the tarmac in about 3 hours. So I'm out there, and here comes two F-4s in a section landing. He lands, climbs out of the cockpit, walks over, I salute him, and he says, "We're gonna gas and go." So after about 45 minutes, turned around, did a section takeoff, two Phantoms in full burner, going up vertically, back to Cherry Code, back to Cherry Point. In 1965, we were both stationed in the Washington area, and each month you do your 4 hours in the training flight. And one night we went down to Norfolk with Ben Cloud, who was also a fighter pilot. I was an NFO, Naval Flight Officer. So we stayed up all night. On our way back to Washington, I stretched out on the flight deck, and Frank was in the left seat, Ben was in the right seat. So we get up to altitude, and they push the nose over. And I jump up off the deck and ran up into the cockpit, and Frank turned around and just started laughing at me hysterically. So he did have a bit of a sense of humor. Tyrone Pennell was another homeboy from New York, and I say that respectfully. And one month, we're in Frank's living room, and Tyrone was an infantry officer, and he was talking about his love for the Marine Corps and how he was waiting to go to Vietnam. And a couple of months later, we ended up going to his service in New York. And shortly after that, I received a call from Carolyn Henriquez. Joe Henriquez was also another homeboy from New York. He's a lieutenant commander. And on his first flight, he got jumped over Hanoi by a couple of MiGs, and the United States sent a couple of F-4s in to clean him up, and he went over to Haiphong Harbor, knocked out a couple of patrol boats, and on his first flight, he got a DFC, Joe Henriquez. He subsequently had a cold catapult shot off the Constellation and didn't make it. So his wife called. I was the first one that got the call. I went over to console her. And then Ben Cloud came over. And as we were leaving, his son came over to me, about 10 years old, and said, "Mr. Campbell, why did my daddy die?" And I couldn't answer that question. We then served as pallbearers in the funeral for Lieutenant Commander Henriquez at Arlington. And to my right, I'll never forget this, was white naval aviator with tears flowing down his cheeks. As we were on our way back to the chapel, two black grave diggers walked up to us, and they said, "Was a black man in that casket?" We said, "Yes." And he said to the other one, "I told you that blacks get buried with full military honors." In Vietnam, Frank Petersen, in an F-4, when he was a squadron commander, was hit by a surface-to-air missile. So he had to eject. He landed in a rice paddy, and this old Vietnamese was running toward him. So Frank went for his pistol, which he lost in the muck. But at Stead Survival School, he was told to have one around his ankle. So by the time he got that one, the old Vietnamese man grabbed a parachute and ran back the other way. In the meantime, CH-46 landed. Two guys jumped out to cover Frank. Frank gets up and he hobbles over to the CH-46. Helicopter pilot, who's already been introduced, Robert Adams, over there. He goes in and he starts doing the ritual black handshake called the dap. And Frank looked at him. "I'm going to give you the cleaned up version." He said, "Knock off that black expletive and get this expletive out of here." And that story was verified by Robert Adams. In 1968, Frank Petersen, as a commanding officer, then a lieutenant colonel, received the Hanson Trophy for having the best fighter squadron in the Marine Corps. He just wanted to be the best. I worked for the former Secretary of the Navy, John Warner, at the Bicentennial. I got a call one day, and Frank said, "Cube, I'm getting out." I said, "What?" He said he got passed over for full bird, full colonel, because somebody was blocking him and had vowed, as long as that one person we have a tradition in the Navy, praise in public, censure in private. I won't mention his name. So I ran down the hall to John Warner's office, and I said, "Can I speak with you for a minute?" I said, "I just got a call from Frank Petersen, and he said he's getting out." Now, John Warner was known to have a temper. He never raised his voice at me. He was the quintessential Virginia gentleman. He said, "Come with me, Commander." We get in the elevator. He looks at me and he screams. He said, "Commander, you tell Frank to stay in." So the bad guy disappears. Frank went on to make full bird, and then February 1979, he gets a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. The voice at the other end says, "Frank, this is Lou Wilson, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, Medal of Honor winner." And he said, "We have a tradition in the Marine Corps that whenever an officer makes flag, no matter where he is or what time of day, we call him." He said, "Frank, you are now Brigadier General Frank Petersen." So the ship was pitching and rolling. Frank thanked the Commandant, and then he went over to the side of the ship and regurgitated. He was that sick. Well, about several months ago, Cory Booker, senator from New Jersey, in reference to Ketanji Brown Jackson, said, and I quote, "There's a lot of us who want to believe in the promise of America. You get weary holding on to that dream, and you really want to hold on to any indication that your faith and your love for this nation is justified." Well, 35 years ago, Frank Petersen gave the commencement address at Virginia Union University. The title of his speech was "The Promise of America is Real." And Senator Warner had this read into the congressional record. Virginia Union, by the way, is the place where Samuel Gravely graduated and Doug Wilder, who became the lieutenant governor and the governor of Virginia. He told the audience that when he graduated from flight school in 1952, he made up his mind he wanted to be the best fighter pilot in the entire Marine Corps. And here's what he told the audience. And here's what he's saying to the crew today of 121. If you ask me to describe the missions I flew in combat in Korea or Vietnam, I would tell you about the courage of my squadron mates, officers and men alike. I would tell you about the helicopter pilots and crewmen that rescued me when I ejected over Vietnam. I would tell you about the Marines who returned to battle after being treated for wounds sustained in combat. I would tell you that they were the best. They were always prepared. They were always faithful. If you would ask me to sum up my military experience of 37 years, I would tell you that humility is the province of the courageous and arrogance the venue of cowards. That day, Frank Petersen quoted Thomas Jefferson, who said, "Enlighten the people generally, oppressions of both body and mind will vanish like evil spirits in the dawn of day." And then he cited Pericles, who was the emperor of Greece during the Golden Age. And he said that Pericles said the challenge is to participate. So General Petersen said to participate by voting. Participate for the amber waves of grain. Participate for the majesty of purple mountains. Participate for those who landed at the beaches of Normandy. Participate for those who climbed Mount Suribachi to raise the American flag. To participate for those who landed at Incheon in the Mekong Delta, for the guardians of freedom and democracy. On the 24th of August, I stood in Frank Petersen's bedroom. His daughter, Dana, and my daughter, Kimberly, left the room. Now, only a Marine can be at attention lying down, but he was at attention. And I looked at him and I said, I love you. You are my hero. Semper Fi. And I saluted and left the room. 24 hours later, he headed west. On September the 3rd, after the memorial for General Petersen at the Naval Academy Chapel in Annapolis, I walked over to Secretary Penn, and Secretary said he was going to meet with his predecessor to get something named after General Petersen. And he started the process of DDG 121 getting named. This nation will always endure because of the leadership like men like General Petersen, Secretary Warner, Secretary Penn, and others. Back to Hawaii. Of that small group of 18 black officers, 4 made flag. Admiral Gravely, Vice Admiral Gravely, Rear Admiral Bill Powell, Major General Gary Cooper, and Lieutenant General Frank Petersen. 3 served in the sub-cabinets of presidents, Gary Cooper, Buddy Penn, and myself, and 2 had ships named after them, Samuel Gravely and Frank Petersen. DDG, and I want to say one thing about General Cooper, about getting back into the fight. I received a call from a family member, and I called the casualty desk and was told that he received frag wounds in the left forearm. He was treated in the field and returned to combat. My friend, Major General Gary Cooper. Captain Hancock, men and women of the Frank E. Petersen Jr., remember you are privileged to serve on a great ship in the world's greatest Navy. General Petersen's great-grandfather, Archie McKinney, fought with the Massachusetts 55th during the Civil War in Charleston, South Carolina. Talk about legacy. He set the standard. And you know, it really is hard. It makes me feel good. And it's almost surreal to look out and see so many black flag officers, including Michelle Howard, Gary Cooper, Willie Williams, others. And I just want to say something about Ted Britton. Ted Britton, the ambassador, he was the ambassador to Barbados, the home of my paternal grandmother. And Ted Britton is 96 years old. He's the Montford Point Marine. Ambassador, would you stand up, please? And Thank you. He and my father were friends in banking. I want to close by saying this. I'm one of those guys that jumped ship after 9 years. And I've been very privileged. I've been extremely blessed. I went to great schools, Michigan State, like Darcy Nella. She was an alumnus, Michigan State. I worked for 3 presidents, Nixon, Ford, Reagan. I've served on over 30 corporate boards. I've been to 55 countries. But every time I come back to this country, I want to kiss the ground because this is the greatest country in the world. And the best thing I ever did with my life was to serve in the Navy because it's the only culture, the only environment, the only institution where somebody always has your back. And don't ever take that for granted. And Congresswoman Mace and Charlie Bolton, General, referred to Frank Petersen as a legend. You are carrying on the torch of a living legend. So I wish all of you Godspeed, fair winds following seas. God bless you. God bless the Navy and the U.S. Marine Corps. And God bless this country, United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Campbell. Secretary Del Toro, I'd be honored if you would now place Frankie Petersen Jr. in commission.
Commanding officer, please place Frankie Petersen in commission.
Aye, sir. Thank you, Secretary Del Toro. Executive officer, hoist the colors and commission pennant.
Aye, sir. Black Knights, hut and hut. The commission pennant in professional national navies began to take form late in the 17th century. All ships at that time were sailing ships, and it was often difficult to tell a naval ship from a merchantman. Navies began to adopt long, narrow pennants to be flown by their ships at the main masthead to distinguish themselves from merchant ships. The commission pennant will fly continuously until the ship is decommissioned. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. I direct your attention to the ship's mast as we hoist the colors and commission pennant. Quartermaster, hoist the colors and commission pennant.
Aye, aye, sir.
Captain, the colors and commission pennant are flying proudly over USS Frank Petersen Jr.
Very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
I will now read my orders. From Commander, Naval Personnel Command to Commander Daniel A. Hancock, United States Navy, subject, Bupper's Order number 9580, dated 01 April 2022. When directed by reporting senior, detach from present duty and report to pre-commissioning unit Frank E. Petersen Jr. as commanding officer. Upon commissioning of USS Frank E. Petersen Jr., report for duty as commanding officer. Admiral Gilday, United States ship Frank E. Petersen Jr. is in commission, and I am in command. Okay. All right. Executive officer, set the first watch.
All right, sir. Officer deck, set the first watch.
Aye, sir.
The officer deck is the commanding officer's direct representative and while on watch is responsible for the safe operation of the ship and crew. The long glass is the traditional symbol of an officer of the deck's authority in a ship of the line. We are honored to have Lieutenant General Petersen Jr.'s son, Mr. Frank E. Petersen III, who will pass the long glass to our first officer of the deck, Lieutenant Jeremy Dirks from Bakersfield, California. The Petty Officer Watch is Senior Chief Sonar Technician Philip Moreno from Dallas, Texas. The Messenger of the Watch is Information Systems Technician 3rd Class Demir Coleman from Lithonia, Georgia. And Bosun Mate of the Watch is Chief Bosun Mate Janae Cross from Detroit, Michigan.
Set the watch. On deck. Watch section 1.
Sir, the watch is set.
Very well. Captain, the watch is set.
Very well. The spirit of a U.S. Navy warship is the embodiment of her sponsor. Our ship is honored to have two sponsors, Mrs. Darcy Neller and the late Dr. Alicia Petersen, who christened the ship together in Pascagoula, Mississippi on October 6, 2018. They have imbued this ship and crew with their spirit and grace. We are so honored to have Mrs. Neller with us today. We lost Dr. Petersen in September of last year, and her matron of honor, Dr. Ann Nickerson, in January of this year. While they are no longer with us, they will always be a source of strength and inspiration to the ship and her crew. I would like to invite Gail Petersen, Dana Petersen Moore, Lindsay Petersen Pulliam, and Monique Petersen to come forward and stand with Mrs. Neller on their behalf as she brings the ship to life. Claire, will you please join us as well? Mrs. Neller, I would be honored if you would give the order to man our ship and bring her to life.
Good morning, everyone. This is an exciting day for me personally, but even more so for my Petersen family. That said, it's also a bittersweet day because my co-sponsor, Dr. Alicia Petersen, and her matron of honor, Aunt Ann, Dr. Nickerson, passed away this past year. But these ladies are going to be looking down on the ship and crew, and we have the extended Petersen and Neller family with eyes on the ground here, so I think we've got everything covered. I want to thank the City of Charleston for hosting this wonderful event, Huntington Ingalls for building a beautiful ship, and all the people that worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this day happen. Thank you to our families as well. Our service members can't do what they do without you and your love and support. To the officers and crew, a ship without a crew is like a body without blood. You will all make this ship come alive and grow. Lieutenant General Frank Petersen was a Marine of many firsts, as you've heard. He was the first African-American aviator, the first African-American squadron commander, the first African-American group commander, the first African-American wing commander, and the first African-American general officer. The namesake of this ship was a warrior. He always went to the sound of the guns, but he was always prepared and smart about the risks he took. You all need to be the same. Always be prepared, work hard, and when the time comes, you will be ready to go into the jaw of the tiger. So to the officers and crew of the USS Frank Petersen Jr., man our ship and bring her to life.
Ladies and gentlemen, the crew of USS Frank Petersen Jr. salutes you. We are proud to serve in America's Navy. Black Knights, ready, to. We would like to thank Marine Aircraft Group 31 for their support today. Will the guests please be seated?
That was your family surprise. We were trying to get a lot of contracts for Marine slaughterhouse keepers. That's your family surprise.
We love that. Thank you so much.
We got it there. We'll keep it right here. We'll give it back to you, Carlos. Don't worry.
Captain, the crew of USS Frank Petersen Jr. is manned and ready.
Very well. Captain Calori, USS Frank Petersen Jr. is manned and ready and reports for duty, ma'am.
Very well.
Thank you, ma'am. Secretary Del Toro, request permission to break your flag, sir.
Raise my flag, Captain.
Very well. Executive Officer, break the flag of the Secretary of the Navy.
All right, sir. Quartermaster, break the flag of the Secretary of the Navy.
Aye, aye, sir.
Captain, the flag of the Secretary of the Navy is flying proudly over USS Frank Petersen Jr.
Very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Daniel Hancock, United States Navy Commanding Officer, USS Frank Petersen Jr.
Black Knights, parade, rest. Secretary Del Toro, Admiral Gilday, General Berger, distinguished guests, and fellow citizens. We gather today not just to commission a warship, but to honor the legacy of a great American, symbolized in U.S. steel and manifested in the proud sailor standing before you. This American man of war, which my team and I labored to life, represents the cutting edge of U.S. naval combat power. And as of today, she is America's newest and most advanced guided missile destroyer ever designed. Our incredible crew takes a great deal of pride in their work. This warship is capable of shooting down the world's deadliest air threats, sinking advanced enemy ships, hunting adversary submarines, and destroying enemy ballistic missiles in space. She is the embodiment of the Navy's tested tactical concepts and represents a new age in U.S. sea power. In a word, this ship was built to fight and win. It was built to fight and win against America's peer competitors, and I can find no better warrior for her namesake than General Frank E. Petersen Jr. He faced inhumane treatment and social justice at every turn, but he prevailed, victorious not only in his meritorious achievements, but valor in combat and with his character fully intact. His courage against insurmountable odds and his perseverance in a lifetime of service are virtues that every Black Knight seeks to emulate. None of us who know his story have ever forgotten that we are the heirs of that powerful legacy. And like the general, we have committed ourselves to owning the fight and carrying his torch proudly forward. To my crew, my Black Knights, it's been a long voyage to get here, but in this moment, I wish to express gratitude and pride. It is my greatest professional honor to serve with each of you. I'm proud of you beyond measure. My heart is filled with love for each of you. A captain could not ask for more than what I have. Over the course of my career, I've had the honor of serving with some very fine crews, but you are different. You are the most talented team that I have ever served with, and despite schedule changes and the pandemic, each of you contributed to the Navy's mission worldwide. I signed countless temporary duty orders sending you abroad on your sister ships to deploy, to execute national tasking, and to keep your critical skills current. You not only accomplished the mission at every turn, you impressed my fellow commanding officers. And I must confess, some of them tried to keep you a little bit longer. When it was our time to take custody of Frank E. Petersen Jr., every one of you stepped up and took ownership of the mission. You built a vibrant community within these steel frames that's founded on clarity, community, and greatness. We know our why. With all of your training, deployment experiences, and a ruthless self-assessing culture, you're one of the most aggressive, tactically oriented teams assembled by the Navy. You know how to get real, and then you know how to get better. I watch you do it every single day. It has been a privilege to witness your development from my chair. You inspire other sailors to be wildly successful in the Navy and in life. You have certainly inspired me. And when I see you, I know with absolute certainty that the United States is in the best of hands. Now the trumpet calls us forth once again. Today marks the end of one voyage and the beginning of another one. Together, we will take the General's warship in the Pacific and sail her into Pearl Harbor, where history is not just studied, but lived every day. The graves of countless U.S. sailors and Marines surround our new home. Their watchful eyes remind us daily that war can come at any time, and we must be ready to defend home if that order ever arrives. We won't be alone. The incredible destroyer Squadron 3-1 Ohana will be waiting for us, and I am excited to join our fellow Greyhounds in formation off of beautiful Hawaii. I look forward to many sea voyages ahead, wherever they may take us. Finally, to the Petersen family, you are our family too. My team and I are very humbled to have been given the opportunity and privilege to bring the General's ship to life. You have my solemn word that we will sail his ship with pride, professionalism, competence, and character. We will sail fast, we will shoot straight, and we will speak the truth. She will represent his values wherever she goes, and she will carry his legacy and his very spirit to American sailors and Marines for generations to come. We're ready to follow in his footsteps, sail into the tiger's jaw, and own the fight. The General used to say, let's see what the old tiger's got. Black Knights, I say, let's go to sea. Thank you.
Black Knights, attend, hut! Will the guests please rise and remain standing for a final tribute to our ship's namesake, Lieutenant General Frank E. Petersen Jr., followed by the benediction, which will be offered by Chaplain Bernard.
Would you pray with me one more time? Eternal Father, who is strong to save, we are reminded of the psalmist's words that mightier than the thunders of many waters, mightier than the waves of the sea, the Lord on high is mighty. And so it is in your almighty hands of protection and care that we place this ship and her crew, O Lord, and ask that you would lead, guide, and sustain her. The officers and crew of the Frank Petersen Jr. have worked tirelessly for months upon months to be ready in war and in peace, to accept any order, to accomplish any task, and to fight and win should they be called to go into the tiger's jaw this very night. Lord, would you go before them and behind them, above them and below them, as they rise each day to bring honor to their families, their shipmates, their nation, and their God. May they from this day forward be Semper Fidelis, always faithful. For I ask all of these things in your name that is above all names, and all of God's people said with me, amen and amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Menard.